All right. Good day, all. I hope everyone is doing well today. For those that this is the first time seeing me do a video, welcome. And, I understand that we're in some very interesting circumstances, but we're going to work with the situation until we get some clarity regarding what's going to happen with our lives. And hopefully when we come out of this, we can be much better people. So before I begin, I want to take a few seconds to, as I call this, our mindfulness section, and just for us to just take a deep breath, just to relax, clear our minds, and just think about all of the, blessings, if you will, that we have. Think about the people who sacrificed their lives for us to be where we are, and for who we've sacrificed our time and efforts to help other people be in their places. So let's just take that time for about a few seconds. Good, thank you all. So what I want to do is I want to take some time out for just to talk a little bit and just put some pieces to these puzzles, how I see these puzzles or dominoes fitting together, and what we can expect. Most of you all have come to peace and conflict studies from various areas, disciplines, experiences, etc. And I briefly want to share a little bit about my background so you understand my perspective and how I come into peace and conflict studies, and that would also help you understand how I see certain situations, areas of conflict, and also how we look at change. So my background is in psychology. I have a bachelor's of science degree in experimental psychology with a minor in early childhood education. From there, I got my master's degree in child development and family studies with a specialty in marriage and family therapy. And from there, I have a PhD in curriculum and instruction with a specialty in curriculum studies. So putting all of those pieces together, I look at areas in society that, or even in schools, et cetera, where there may be some disconnect between success and failure. If there's a particular group that are struggling in a specific area, what I do is I'll observe a particular situation or conflict or problem area, and begin to look at different factors that might contribute to these individuals or individuals that may be struggling in this particular context. My focus and research has been on the Black Power movement with specific attention to the Black Panther Party in Philadelphia, and how the Black Panther Party use their social relief efforts to impact the community, speaking specifically to community needs, whether it be that revolved around housing, clothing, shelter, food, water, belongingness, etc. And looking at how we can use that model to and apply it to current educational attainment and success for children, mainly in low-income communities. In addition, I do research and work with childhood obesity, and looking at how we can encourage children and also families to participate in more physical movement, connections, building connections, and also proper nutrition. I'm also a fitness nutrition specialist, a personal trainer, a group exercise instructor, mainly in the world of Zumba, and I can call it a functional training coach. Okay, so with that being said, let's kind of put all this stuff together for a moment. And what I want to do, and actually another piece that I do. And some people who've had interaction with me know that I have spent a considerable amount of my time studying the stock market and fluctuations in the stock market, et cetera. So what I'm going to do is take all those different worlds and put them together to look at the current political, economic, and social system and give you an idea of how peace and conflict studies can be a critical part in how we look at problems and how we can shape and reshape policy. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to be using a few approaches to address this situation. We'll call that an integration of multiple approaches. I'm using Maslow's hierarchy of needs, game theory, Paulo Freire's specifically pedagogy of the oppressed, and also systems theory, all right, in this analysis. And what we're going to talk about is a piece that comes out of contemporary conflict resolution, and it revolves around the notion of the prisoner's dilemma, which is a part of game theory. Now, I'm not going to use the term because I guess if I put this on internet, there's an issue with that. So I'm just going to use the pandemic, all right? And let's just work with this. And again, this is not to offend anybody. This is just my way of looking at a situation and applying a particular theory and model to understand this, okay? So with that being said, this is 2020. I said to a few of my classes last year that 2020 is going to be the year for that's going to represent something much bigger. It's going to be a year that looking at the eye about vision, that there's something going to happen in 2020 that we are forced to see something, all right? And when 2020 hit, it seemed like everything was all good, but something happened where now society as we know it has been flipped upside down, where the norm is no longer norm and the abnormal has become normal. And that revolves around the pandemic, all right, which was kind of like the pin that popped popped this bubble that was occurring. The question that I ask is, how long can a country go on where a group of individuals are struggling, all right? And I'm talking about economically struggling, racially struggling, aspects of gender relationships that are strained. When we look at individuals from the GLBTQ community that are struggling, how long can a society last with those issues that are just impending and just ready to that are boiling over and ready to just blow, all right? So prior to this point, I've studied and I looked at how the racial climate was in the society, and I knew that eventually this was a powder keg about to blow. But this is 2020, this is nothing new, because we were talking about that. Actually, somebody by the name of Malcolm X made that statement back in the 1960s, all right? That the country was on the verge to have a bloodless revolution if they were to take the necessary steps to secure the humanity and provide the necessary, meet the necessary needs of Black people in society. It never happened. And you kick that can down the road. Economically, you notice that people were struggling, you know, whether it be student loan debt, mortgage debt, rental debt, economic challenges, where it seems like people were working every day and they're just continuing to run around this hamster wheel and to no avail, where it seems as though the American dream became an American nightmare for people. Why is that? Why is it that if I did everything right, I went to school, got an education, got a job, but for some reason I cannot get that White House with a white picket fence with the rabbits? I don't know why I can't do that. And why does it seem like every day I'm struggling? All right. So these are different issues, and also random acts of violence that are occurring in people's lives. You can be walking down the street and somebody just pops you for what? You know, children in school, you know, in the classrooms, college classrooms, somebody brings a gun because they got a bad grade on an exam and they shoot up the place. Somebody gets fired from a job, they shoot up the place. Why? You know, so these are these issues that have been that we've been riddled with. And for me, I've grown frustrated with seeing these problems and wondering at what point we're going to make sense of this and be able to realize that we're all a human family, all right? And maybe we can all come together and work on these things and build a better society for tomorrow. But unfortunately, we chose the other route, all right? And I'm saying we, but I'm saying those in power choose a different route. They love division, okay? Now, why I share this with you all is this. Paulo Freire said in Pedagogy of the Oppressed, some of you are reading this book, right? That when we look at oppression, what is oppression? Oppression is when one force hinders another force from achieving or being fully human. That's an act of violence. We can use that from a political standpoint with the laws and policies that are passed to hinder a particular group. We can see that on an economic standpoint where individuals are just not able to, quote unquote, come up because financially it's just not feasible to do that. When we look at people who cannot, you know, live, look at what's going on now. If some of you all see the news, it just baffled me when an analyst I was listening to said that Los Angeles has the largest, out of all the homeless people in the country, Los Angeles has half of them. And you have to sit back and think, California. But think about this for a second. You are in the greatest country in the world. All of this land that exists, and we have homeless people. Think about that, okay? Socially, where you sit back and look at people who can't go to one side of the neighborhood because of the color of their skin. People that can't get a job because people have these implicit biases against you, all right? What is it that we've come to, all right? We've come to 2020. We've come to a point in society that, do you honestly think we can keep going like this without there not being an explosion, all right? And that's what you're seeing brewing, all right? And this stuff is brewing. And this has to be, in my opinion, the most uncomfortable time and most uncertain time of my life, because you know that all of these dominoes have been were put in place. And I'm using the movie V for Vendetta as an example, that all of these dominoes were being put in place, and they all lead to one specific date, November 3rd, 2020. That's my opinion, okay? Now, let's take a step back. History says that there has been no president there have been 5 presidents that have sought re-election and enduring a recession. The United States is in a recession which was made official in February of 2020. Most people have been in a recession or depression for years. And as 50 Cent, AKA Curtis Jackson, said, Black people have been in a depression all their lives. Now, only 5 presidents have gone up for re-election, and one of those 5 presidents actually was re-elected. 1901, William McKinley. That means that Donald Trump can be the second president to be re-elected during a recession. He can make history because he could be the first president to be re-elected during a recession that will be able to live the full term of that re-election. So we've never had a president to ever serve a full term after being re-elected during a recession. History. Second fact, since about when this is being tracked, since about 1987, the stock market has been a primary indicator of showing or providing evidence of who the president would be, all right? In 87% excuse me, 87% of the time has shown that the stock market has provided evidence of who the next president would be. All right, which means 13% of the time it was wrong. This is going back to 1900. All right. The specific date of knowing this is this. On July 31st of whatever re-election year there is, whatever the close of the S&P was on that date, if the market is above that point by October 31st, you have an 87% likelihood that the sitting president will remain in place. On the S&P 500, the stock market closed on July 31st at 3,271.12. If we stay above that, we have a strong likelihood that President Trump will be reelected. Point 3. Anytime there has been an opening seat on the Supreme Court during a re-election year, the sitting president actually remains in place. Point 4. Right now, if you're betting or gambling, which is, I don't recommend that at all, but if you're gambling, right now, Donald Trump is the underdog to become reelected, which means that I think it's like a 180 spread. If you drop $1 to bet on Donald Trump, based on these statistics, you'll get $1.80 once reelection occurs, if reelection occurs. All right, so I'm just throwing that out there. All right, and I just want to put that information out there to let you know that these are the data sets and points that people are using now to assess whether or not, or determine whether or not we're pretty much throwing, let me use a different term, throwing sand into the wind in regards to the re-election. All right. Now, let's play with this again. So you have that information. Now, this is where I'm going to say we have to really do some thinking, and now I'm going to apply some of these theories and approaches to the situation that we're in. The prisoner's dilemma is an approach that was used to say, and as game theorists use, to say what would be the best option for a group of individuals or a team to choose that would maximize the benefit of a certain choice. All right. As you all see, the prisoner's dilemma has 4 quadrants. And you have also other people. Stephen Covey, I came into this through Stephen Covey's work with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and working with relationships with people. All right, is when you have 2 conflicting parties coming to 2 conflicting parties, and we have to reach a negotiation. What is the best scenario that will or outcome that can be beneficial or hurtful to another group? You have a win-win category, you have a win-loss, a loss-win, and a loss-loss. You also have a 5th category, which is a no deal. So let's think of ourselves as a leader, all right? Let's think of us as a mayor living in, let's see, in a hurricane-prone city. As a leader, you have a choice. You realize that a hurricane, during hurricane season, hurricanes can come from nowhere, all right? And they come, and you know that they're coming. You have the forecasters telling you the trajectory of this hurricane. So what do you do as a leader? What you ideally want to do is you want to make sure that you put the humanity of your people over money, if you will. The needs of the people mean more than the financial situation that we're in. So as a leader, what I want to do is I want to, of course, have a positive reputation amongst my people. In addition to the fact that I would do whatever I need to do to make sure that my people are safe in a particular crisis. So what I would do is I would spend the necessary funds in order to ensure the safety of my people, all right? That their needs are met. That's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that I am protecting the needs of my people, that humanity is centered. So I don't know what this hurricane or the level and magnitude of this hurricane would be, but I'm going to take the necessary precautions to protect our city from a potential threat. Now, the win-win. Win is the people are protected, and I put the necessary funds in place. Hurricane comes, people are protected. You minimize the amount of damage to your city. You spent the necessary money and dedicated the necessary funds to prevent that from happening. A win-win. The win-loss situation is interesting because that is what I look at as a sacrifice. In the game of chess, you look at, I would sacrifice a pawn in order to advance myself or another piece's position on the field, all right? This is what we call a Pyrrhic victory, whereby what I want to do is protect the financial aspect of our city, all right? Look, hey, we don't know if this hurricane is going to come or not. So it can just go in a different direction. So what we'll do is this, we'll just go ahead and take a chance on this one, all right? And that's it. So now you have a situation where you take a chance, you save money, you don't put the necessary precautions to protect the people. Hurricane comes, destroys the city. Now what? Now you have to deal with that. But you save the city money, all right? But at what expense? The loss of lives, loss of homes, loss of your own reputation. But at the end of the day, you save people money. The loss-win situation is this. You lose in the sense that you spend the necessary money, all right? But hurricane comes and you save the people. The people are happy, you basically sacrifice yourself, sacrifice your dignity, you put a lot of money and effort towards this, and the hurricane came, you win. The last situation is a loss. You don't dedicate any money, you don't take any precautions, and the hurricane comes and you lose lives, etc. The magnitude of that is far-reaching. So I give you those scenarios to think about what I'm about to say. What is a president to do when you find out that there's a pandemic brewing and you don't know the severity of this pandemic, but you know that it could be devastating to not only the social, political, and economic sanctity of your country? What is a president to do? Are you willing to sacrifice the economy in order to make sure that your people are protected? Or do you go ahead and say, you know what? I think everything is going to be okay. And I'm not closing the economy down. But then what is it that emerges from that? A win-win situation would have been this. We shut down the economy for 2 months. This is back in March. We don't know what we're dealing with. We don't know the severity of this situation. We're going to go on a mandatory lockdown. We're going to save the people and we're going to sacrifice the economy, but we're going to have to do it in a way that will create a win-win situation for everybody. Right now, or at the time, the United States had a national debt of about 26, actually like probably about 23, $24 trillion. We're already in debt as a country. In order for the stock market to be propped up the way it is, the Federal Reserve had to assist with that by providing banks with more money that they have access to push the stock market up. So we already know that we have these measures in place to help the rich, or excuse me, to help the wealthy. So maybe we can just go ahead and take that, use that measure and apply it to the people. If we shut down the economy, if you shut down one part of the economy, it's going to affect another part, systems theory. It's going to affect another part. That part's going to affect another. It's going to affect another, etc. That's the spiral that you do. You can't just remove one part of the system and act like the system is not going to exist. So, for example, people get unemployed, people lose their jobs for something that they can't control. All right, they've done everything right, and now they lose their job. Now what? The bills still have to be paid. The electric company is not trying to hear, oh, well, you ain't got no bills, you need to pay. That money that you owe for the bill, they may say, okay, we'll pass that, forego that for a few months, but that money is accruing. You have to pay that money later on. So what is a leader to do? A win-win situation. Let's go ahead, pay off, using the Federal Reserve, pay off everybody's student debt, everybody's credit card debt, pay off all the mortgages. You're looking at about 1 plus 1.5, 2.5. At that time, you're looking at about maybe, let's say, $4 to $5 trillion. Now, people would have went mad as far as political officials, leaders, et cetera, would have went mad to say, oh, we're going to take $5 trillion and spend it on the people. Are you crazy? And again, I know I'm just talking in simplistic terms, okay? I'm simplicity here. But I'm just saying, what if? Innovative thought. What if? Allocate $5 trillion, feed it to the people. I don't care if you were negligent with your student loans or you did what you had to do. Lump them all together, pay it off, because we know that this is an albatross of why people cannot spend. Now, rather than us giving people stimulus checks, which now we've become dependent on, we now have taken away their debt. And the money that you would have paid towards rent, towards your mortgage, towards your student loan, towards a credit card, guess what? That is your stimulus money. Shut down the economy for 2 months. Only essential items are available to you, that essential items you can use. Mandatory masks, you need to be on lockdown. March would have took us to April, would have took us to May, to the mid-June. We would have had a grasp of what we were dealing with in regards to this virus, and we would have been able to control it much better and potentially eliminate it, because that's what other countries did, and potentially eliminate it. However, by us allowing it to linger, let's look at what has happened. We keep the economy open, but we also realize that the virus, cases of the virus have been increasing. So now more companies are having to let people go. Unemployment begins to spike, okay? In addition to the fact that now people are now dying. You don't know if you have if your symptoms are asymptomatic, but you could pass that on to another person and not even know it. And then next thing you know, they are affected by it, worse off than you, and could potentially die. So now we lose more and more lives because of this. Because we have no control of this, it's lingering. March, April, May, June, July, all the way into October, to the point where we're saying that now it could get even worse. The economy was saved. However, they have something called the I wish I could make that up, a K-shaped recovery, whereby the market had gone down in March and only a certain set of individuals, the wealthy people, were able to benefit with the market moving, and then the other people were lost and lost much more in comparison to their wealthy counterparts. A K-shaped recovery. Win-loss. The Pyrrhic victory. The problem. The winners were the wealthy, who gained about 60+% in the stock market. And I'm just saying, based on what I've saw, based on the March low into where we are currently. They got their money. They're chilling, they're living, enjoying life. But the other people that suffered were all the companies. I mean, many companies who had to lay off people left and right. And now what? If we took the win-win approach, that stimulus money, after 2 months, and knowing Americans the way they are, after 2 months lockdown, once those doors opened up, they would have been up in that Best Buy buying the next television just like that. Your GDP would have went through the roof because of so much time, pent up energy that was there. People are going to spend their money. I know I would have been one of them, right? So now we chose the win-loss situation. Now look at the situation that we're in. Unemployment. Look at the levels of forbearance. Look at the levels of evictions that are occurring with people in certain communities. If the stimulus check or this bill does not pass by November, the effect of that is going to be far-reaching. And we may face a worse predicament than we've ever seen in this country. Excuse me. Since 1929. Is that something that we're willing to, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not even done yet. In addition to the fact that now all those other issues of racial issues, gender issues, etc., have now began to explode in certain communities. So now you have a potential issue of racial conflict, gender conflict, sexuality conflict that's all brewing and waiting for some moment for all of this stuff to happen. In my opinion, all of this stuff could have ended if we just said that we have to sacrifice money in order for our people to survive. And because we did not do that, and we pushed the needs of the many to the side again, which is an act of violence, we have now created a situation that we have no clue what it's going to look like. And it would probably get worse. So what do? This is where we come in as peace and conflict scholars, etc. Each one of you comes to this table with different talents, abilities, and experiences. How do you sit back and how do you take your background and your understanding and your creativity to address the needs of society? Because you all are the ones that are going to have to make this change. It's going to start with us. It's going to start with us being the people that are willing to do what needs to be done in order to empower other people, to validate other people, and to humanize other people. That is our job. That is our task. Because we know that there are some people that are in leadership positions that are so neglectful that they would overlook these problems again and again. And when those problems come to their door, they're sitting here looking like, I didn't know. You did know. You ignored it. Now we have to face it. We have a few more months in this year. We have to take this time to figure out a plan of action that is going to be beneficial for people, not only in a particular community, not only in this nation, but in this globe. You all have the opportunity to take your experience within this classroom and make it yours. To take these books, wherever they may be, to take these books, to take this knowledge and apply it to the real world and save somebody's life. Because we don't have any more time to sit back here and allow madness to run rampant in the lives of our people. Are you willing to put forth the effort? Are you willing to make the necessary sacrifices to save the humanity, to save our humanity? Because if we choose to not do anything about it, in 10 years' time, our children are going to be the ones having this discussion. And I don't want my children to have this discussion. So that means that I will do any and everything in my power to make sure that, one, they're going to be safe, and to make sure that you all are going to be safe, and that I'm going to do everything in my power to push you all to the next level in order to be the people, based on the videos that I see, the people that I see you being. I wish you all the best. You all know my number. You have my email. You have access to me. If you have a situation where you're stuck, personal barriers, social barriers that you're struggling with, you have people that are here to help you. Do not allow oppression to destroy your life without finding an outlet. You have friends, you have social support networks, you have a professor. Use it to your advantage and be the best that you can be. I wish you all the best. With love.